Hey, friends, it's Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. These Hawaiian bribery scandals continue. I did a video yesterday about a convicted felon who is getting tens of millions of dollars to build affordable homes in Lahaina. And yes, that project has been on the books for some time, but he went before the county council to ask for even more money so that he could build affordable units that he said would cost him $750,000 per unit. Well, if that's affordable, and I know some of you that live in Hawaii left some comments saying that things are very expensive there. And I'm certain that is true. I've been to Hawaii myself. I know that the cost of living is very high. That is part of the problem with the lack of housing for those who are struggling, especially in the aftermath of this heinous inflicted, I'm just going to call it, can I call it terrorism? Call it like I see it. So it still seems to me that that's quite inflated. So I did a Substack about this scenario, and I hope you saw it. It's peggyhall.substack.com. It goes into great detail. There's links to information, and I hope that you will follow me there. Just in case this channel ever goes down, we'll be able to stay in touch. I want to share with you a story that most people don't know about. And this is about two Hawaiian lawmakers, state lawmakers, that actually were convicted of bribery and were sent to prison, and how this is implicating what's going on in Lahaina in terms of the flawed system, which doesn't even have any basic oversight in terms of these contracts. There is so much that I want to cover with you about Lahaina, what's going on with this toxic waste dump. I had everything queued up for you in terms of sharing with you some testimony at the county council. And wouldn't you know, my computer froze on me. So I will need to get all that queued up for you, probably for tomorrow's video. What I want to do, since we're talking about money, let's talk about money, because I have a very important word from my sponsor. So let's hop right on over to noblegoldinvestments.com. Now, listen, this might not be for you, but it might be for you. And if you've been hearing this message over the many months that I have had this sponsor, I hope that you will check it out if you want to learn more. And have you ever known a time when there's been so much chaos in the world? It really seems like it is just expanding, and the markets are all over the place. Nobody really knows what to do. So my question for you is, what are you doing to make sure that your money is safe? Now, precious metals, gold and silver, have seen us through wars, depressions, and natural disasters for thousands of years. So this might just be the answer for you right now. And you can call them. It's 877-646-5347. Get someone in the United States, likely in California, answering your call. And you can find out about opening up a Noble Gold Investments IRA. And when you do that, you could qualify for this very cool. I want to show you the two sides. This is a silver virtue coin. So you can get this for free when you qualify with your IRA. So just check it out, friends. That is over at noblegoldinvestments.com. This can help you safeguard your financial future against market volatility. I will have a link for you in the description box below, along with a disclaimer that, you know, investments are always at risk and there's no guarantee of any kind, but get your questions answered by going to noblegoldinvestments.com. Let's talk about money, and let's talk about Maui. Let's talk about Hawaii, and let's talk about Lahaina. What I really want to bring to your attention, because I had so many great comments from you. Let me just take a moment to thank all of you for your comments. Let me thank all of you for your cards and letters. I know I'm on a green screen here, so it's a little hard to see. I've got dozens and dozens and dozens of letters that they come into me basically, you know, on an ongoing basis. And I've got a lovely, healthy American on the island, on Hawaii Island, who is sending me wonderful news clippings straight from the Hawaiian newspaper. And I really appreciate that, Larry. Thank you for being a very valued, healthy American. Thank you for being on board here on this channel and giving me your comments. I read the comments within the first 24 hours after I broadcast a video. Then I basically need to move on to my next video. And I can't always reply to the comments, but I do read them. And I want to let you know that there was a healthy American who commented on the story I did yesterday about a convicted felon getting tens of millions of dollars and maybe even another $50 million to develop this property. And someone said, you know, I'm a convicted felon. This is what they wrote on the YouTube comment section. He said, I'm a convicted felon. I've done my time. I want to be a productive member of society. And I hope that someone will give me a chance as well. And there were so many great comments from you, my sophisticated, savvy, supportive, healthy Americans, who said, good for you. That's fantastic. But don't you think a person who was behind bars for financial fraud and bank fraud and wire fraud, is that the right person to give all these millions of dollars to? Why not give it to a local Hawaiian or someone that actually lives in Hawaii? This fellow, he's not Hawaiian, he's from Texas, has never even done, to the digging that I've seen, the digging that I've done has shown that he has not done any other developments in Hawaii. So that was more along the lines of my questioning. And now we're looking at the system that is so flawed when it comes to giving these contracts out from the government. And that's the story that I want to bring to you right now. This actually comes from all places, the New York Times. You know how the internet will start to serve you up information that you've been researching? This just came right across my internet, and I thought it was a really good story, even though I typically don't read the New York Times. And I will leave a link for you to this story at my Substack, peggyhall.substack.com, absolutely free. So let me share with you the headline, because I think this was quite compelling. And let me share my screen again. Let me know if you've read this story, if you ever read anything from the New York Times. It says, Hawaii bribery scandal cast a shadow over Lahaina's ruins. And then it goes on to say, for years, a local businessman paid off officials in exchange for lucrative contracts. The system he exploited has been left largely unchanged. And that's where I want to go with this. This story came out in late October, so it's a very timely story. So I am going to summarize, I'll paraphrase some of this and even give a few quotes. And again, published and updated October 26, 2023. So it says, after a major contracting scandal broke out in Hawaii last year, right, 2022. Now, keep in mind, that is prior to the governor and prior to the county mayor. I call him Missin Bisson because he always was like not on the scene. This was prior to them taking office. However, they inherited this broken system, or a system that is just open and ripe for corruption. So just want to set the stage time-wise. After a major contracting scandal broke out in Hawaii in 2022, the mayor of Maui County, so the previous mayor, appeared on television to express outrage and announce a sweeping audit of contracts awarded to a corrupt businessman. But no one told the county auditor, who said he had only heard about the audit on the news. Can you imagine? The mayor hadn't even told the county auditor. Keep in mind the islands there. So Maui is an island, and it's also a county. So when I speak about that, that's what I'm referring to. In the end, the audit was never completed. The county of Maui, the flawed system for awarding contracts, it remains in place, and it is a system marred by bribery and lack of competition. This is what troubled me about this fellow from Texas of Chinese descent who got this contract, when I'm certain that there must be some Hawaiian-based contracting companies or even developers that could have put in a competitive bid for this. So as Maui recovers from the devastating wildfires that swept across parts of the island in August, killing about 100 people, millions of dollars will be spent on rebuilding the critical infrastructure using the same flawed contract monitoring system, or lack of monitoring is a better way to describe it. Now, this is why I often refer to those government officials as public serpents. At least in my experience in Orange County, California, they are not serving the public, they are serving evil. And that's why I have my moniker for them as public serpents. Now, the bribery case in this specific situation in Hawaii that sent 2 of the state legislators to prison includes a businessman named Milton Choi. And I'll show you a picture of him in just a moment. This bribery case prompted some county officials to begin phasing out, get this, the use of sole source contracts. Yeah, they are awarded without competitive bidding. And I'm certain that goes on in Orange County, California as well, when all of these companies popped up on the scene in terms of lining up to get all of that American Rescue Plan money, which was called ARP, like ARP, ARP, ARP. It reminded me of SEALs kind of, performing to get the money. And then prior to that was the I Don't Cares Act. That's my nickname for it, because they certainly didn't care about we, the people, when we were being discriminated against, trying to just go into a restaurant or a grocery store, or for heaven's sake, trying to get medical care or a dentist appointment. And we were being discriminated against because of our no consent to these medical interventions. So yeah, those companies didn't care. Those businesses didn't care. And don't be giving me the argument that it's a private business, they can do what they want. Oh, so a private business can require you to punch Granny in the face as a condition of entry? A private business can have Pickpocket Tuesday and anybody can go and pick your pocket. It's a free-for-all if you're not watching. No. A business cannot have policies that violate the law. And there are plenty of laws that protect my right of no consent. So that doesn't hold water. And I've done several videos about no shirt, no shoes, no service, all of that which is also somewhat of a misnomer. But the point is, a lot of these companies just appeared on the scene with their hands out to get millions of dollars in the case of the county of Orange. And I researched some of these companies, and it was so interesting. I couldn't find maybe a direct link to some of the board members, but I would just say maybe it was a cousin of a cousin of a cousin, if you know what I'm saying, when you look at how they appeared on the scene and the millions of dollars that they were getting without these competitive bids. Suddenly, they were all sorts of cooties testing facilities all around in certain places in Orange County. Yes, very, very suspicious. So in Maui, in Hawaii, I should say, this competitive bidding process basically doesn't exist. So these government officials can just determine that one vendor is suited for the job. And when they put forth these contracts, it gets even worse. Yes, you heard me right. Worst is worse than worse. It gets even worse because there's not even any oversight when the government officials and bureaucrats are pushing through these signed contracts. They're not even scrutinizing them. So let me give you a little bit of background as to this Mr. Choi. Let's take a look at him, shall we? He reminds me of some of these other individuals who were on the scene in some shady details. Yeah, this is him. All right. He's been in the news, so I have no problem sharing this picture with you. And Milton Choi, this is a picture of him walking into court in Honolulu on August 29th. He was sentenced to more than 3 years in prison for bribing a Maui County official in exchange for more than $19 million in government contracts. So don't be getting all up in my business when I was questioning this other guy getting the $50 million on top of the $18 million. And where were the competitive bids there? Just asking, just asking. I mean, am I the only one bringing this news out here? I feel like I'm in an echo chamber here. All right, let's continue, shall we? So let's take a look at Mr. Choi's case. And this is where we're seeing the pitfalls in this procurement system. And imagine now, this is the video that I want to do for you coming up. I have a question for you as well. How much money do you think that Maui Strong Fund got? Just drop it in a comment. Let me know if you know, and I will bring that to you in an upcoming video. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars just in that fund. I'll give you the exact number probably tomorrow. I do need to give my voice a little rest, I realize. And then there's also the People's Fund of Maui. Remember Ofra, as I call her, and the Rock. Yeah, Rock. Some of you, not me. Well, I'm not even going to do the meme. You can probably find it online, but it has something to do with Ofra and the Rock. And I'll tell you what, we can't even find out how much money that fund has gotten. It's all private. It won't come out until their taxes have been filed. And of course, that's not for many months. When we're talking about 2023, they don't have to file taxes until later this year, 2024, and they could get an extension, and we might never see how much money was brought in with the People's Fund. So where is all that money going? Inquiring minds want to know. So there's a lot going on here in terms of millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that are going to be on the table, or shall I say, under the table and in someone's pockets, in terms of these non-competitive bids. So this is what is troubling to me. I will bring you the coverage tomorrow about the toxic dump site, because I have to queue up again this amazing testimony that really summarizes what the Hawaii people in Lahaina feel about, again, just literally bulldozing through. Bulldozing the land without the correct permits, not stopping once that it has been revealed. It is absolutely heartbreaking to see how the Hawaiian people literally are being bamboozled and bulldozed through this broken system. Now, some of you are tuning in from Hawaii. Some of you have lived in Hawaii. You have ties to Hawaii. Some of you go back and forth. You might have one of these rental properties that you may or may not put into government service, and that should be your choice. Of course, it's your property. What troubles me is the slippery slope of the governor Green New Deal, because, he's all about sustainable and resilient, except when it comes to you. He wants the government to require you to put your private property into government service at a price that they state. And I'm going to break down all that money for you when we're talking about $500 million. And I'm going to break it down for you exactly month by month and property owner by property owner. That will be in an upcoming video. But what I want to finish is this story about Mr. Choi and his case, this bribery scandal. So what happened, and think back, in the very first few weeks of the fires, $3 million. Okay, it's a pittance compared to the hundreds of millions we're talking about. It was already given in contracts within the first few weeks after the fires. And again, in a non-competitive bidding sole vendor setup. I mean, I find that very, very troubling. So most of the money has gone to the firms to clear the debris from the road. Okay, that kind of makes sense. And to manage traffic in the burned area. There were also consultants that were paid to assess the damage to Lahaina's water system, and also the temporary holding facilities for toxic debris. And this is where it really gets controversial. Some of the most pristine land on Maui, not far from Lahaina. I'm talking, my understanding, it's like a wildlife preserve for dolphins and whales and sea life and turtles. And they want to put the toxic dump site there. Oh, temporarily. Oh, I can't give you an answer for what temporary means. And it's too expensive to take it elsewhere. So we'll put it there and incur all of the cost. And then later we'll double the cost of moving it, because then it won't be expensive then. This is the Maui mayor's lack of logic. I'm going to cover that for you in an upcoming video. But what I want to tell you is that even that few $1 million that was given in the early days, no competitive bidding. And you're going to say, well, there you go again, Peggy. They have to, it's an emergency. You've got to just get it through quickly. There's no time for competitive bids. Oh, really? You can't take a day and say, okay, by 5 o'clock, put in your bids. You can't have a committee that reviews it. They're just not following whatever policies and procedures they have. So no competitive bidding on this. Single source contracts are rife for abuse. And I have evidence of that with this Mr. Choi and the legislators that went to prison. So Mr. Choi had this company called H2O Process Systems. He was awarded about $12 million in sole source contracts between 2015 and 2022. That means no one else bid on it. And it's more than any other vendor received in any of the contracts between that period of time. And that's more than 13% of the total spending for the county in contracts. So federal prosecutors did their investigation. They found out that if you go back to 2012, this Choi got close to $20 million. Now, let me just, inquiring minds want to know exactly how many housing units would that build? If we're talking about people not having places to live in Hawaii, yet $20 million is going in a non-competitive bidding process, I do feel sorry for the Hawaiians that are under this high level of corruption and the kama'ainas, the long timers that live there. And I know some personally. And I know of things that have happened to them there. And it is absolutely makes California look like the land of the free and the home of the brave. So here we go. Maui does much more of its spending through these non-competitive bids than even the state of Hawaii. So that pushes Maui up on the scale of scandal. I'll just have to put it bluntly. If you are looking at the number of people that are implicated in these bribes, in these scandals, have gone to prison, I mean, that's what you need to look at for evidence. It reminds me of San Bernardino County in California, which by any factual review of the evidence is the most corrupt county in the United States. If you look at the number of people that have been convicted of crimes and have spent time behind bars, or even if they haven't spent time behind bars. And again, I would have to dig deeper. I don't know if they were set up. I suppose it's possible that some were, but when you look at these patterns of corruption again and again and again, and the political parties, I'll give you one guess as to which political party is more corrupt than the other. What was that? Did you say it starts with a D? Bingo, you're absolutely right. And that's not my opinion. That is a fact. I did a video a couple of years ago about that. I either took it down or YouTube took it down. All of my videos are over at peggyhall.tv. It is not virtual, but a veritable vault of over 1,000 and counting of my videos, including my public appearances, my husband, Pastor David's sermons, a lot of interviews and videos that were taken down from these channels, most taken down by YouTube. They still live on there. Let's get back to this topic at hand. So it's a very small universe, this story is reporting from the New York Times of contracts and vendors, and Choi exploited it. The writer here says the process is so problematic that the agency in charge of Maui's sewers halted the use of sole source contracting this year, right, 2022, but the method is still in use countywide and can be used for purchases related to disaster relief efforts. Gee, sounds like a recipe for disaster, if you ask me. So the suspension of competitive bidding is only one hole in this process, because there's millions and millions of dollars that are just going to go through the people's fingers and maybe end up in their pockets around the bend. Just saying. So here's an example. The county purchasing office that checks the agency requests for no bid contracts has 2 employees usually working. So they monitor these bids. They don't even really monitor the bids, but the contracts from 15 agencies and departments in the county. That seems like a lot. And remember, we're talking about contracts for anything and everything that the county needs to purchase. There is something called the Maui County Board of Ethics, and it is responsible for investigating possible wrongdoings by public officials. And there is not even a dedicated budget or staff for this County Board of Ethics. How do you like them pineapples? I'll just put it that way. Them are pretty rotten pineapples, since we're speaking about Maui and Hawaii. So even after the investigations, where 2 county officials and 2 state lawmakers from Maui took bribes, they went to prison. That still hasn't been rectified. They haven't even beefed up that Office of Ethics. So here's the bottom line. Choi was charged with 1 count of bribery in 2022. He was sentenced to more than 3 years in prison. And then during the sentencing, he apologized to his competitors. Like, oh, I'm sorry you didn't get in on the grift and graft and the scandal and no, I guess he must have said, I'm sorry that I got these contracts and you didn't. Then he apologized to the people of Maui. And most of all, he said he apologized to his family. He said, my children were raised to be honest and law-abiding. I want you to listen to this next sentence, because you're going to be hearing it again and again. You probably already have heard it. I've pointed it out on this channel, coming from some prominent people in the, let's just say, in the freedom movement. He said, I pray that I may be able to restore their trust and their respect for their father. So again and again and again, and let me just say again and again, I've read on Substacks and I've heard on interviews that, the problem in our country is that we need to restore trust. We need to restore trust in the military. We need to restore trust in the regulatory agencies, the FDA, the CDC, the WHO. We need to restore trust in the medical companies, the drug dealers, right? We need to restore trust in our public officials. Do you see where that goes? I know you do, because once you begin to trust them, then they'll tell you with full confidence that you can believe them when the next cocktail comes out. Of course you can. Yeah, so this restoring trust, I'm a little troubled by it. Here's another picture of Choi in the U.S. District Court with his attorney and two Maui officials and two state lawmakers and Choi were all sent to prison. So we got that going for us. So former associates of this guy said that he was a very charming salesman who could definitely navigate his way to the people who would buy his products and services. He sold wastewater equipment from manufacturers on the mainland. I would love for some of my healthy Americans to do a little digging and to see if Choi has sold any wastewater equipment to, I don't know, the state of California, or if he has any dealings with, I don't know, the CDC, because I carried a story on this channel a few days ago about wastewater surveillance and how the CDC wants all of the municipalities in the United States to increase their surveillance of wastewater to make sure that they can determine whether or not cooties is on the rise. Because don't you know, they have a way of testing for something that doesn't even exist. There, I said it. All right. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. So introductions, I'm just reading from the story here. Introductions were often made and backroom deals were hashed out over dinners, where Choi would occasionally flash a list of his contacts with direct lines to politicians and public servants. Public officials. Orders from the state health department and the US EPA in the 1990s to upgrade county wastewater infrastructure created tons of business opportunities for Choi. Isn't that wonderful? He was the man that was in the right place at the right time. But apparently now he's circling the drain because his evil deeds were discovered. So his H2O process system started in 2008 and his business flourished. Anyhow, I'm going to leave this story for you. It says that he invited Hawaii officials and friends to soirees in Las Vegas, where the guests would be treated to stacks of gambling chips, food and drinks at Choi's private suite at the Mirage Hotel and Casino. So I'm sure there was no chance of any bribery or money changing hands or maybe other things happening. You know what they say, what happens in Vegas gets splashed all over the New York Times, apparently. So he admitted to prosecutors that he received no bid contracts in Maui facilitated through bribery payments for at least 6 years. There is only one finance director who reviews contracts in the county of Maui, and that made it easy for him to have his contracts just signed and paid. So I will leave this for you, friends. The bottom line where I'm going with this is that what's the situation in Hawaii, on Maui, in Lahaina is just the doors are open for corruption. There are more and more stories coming out about funds not being accounted for. And that's why it troubles me that I cannot even find out how much money the People's Fund, spearheaded by Ofra and The Rock, have brought in. We won't know that for a long time. And I know I kept you hanging long enough. I believe it's $176 million have been collected by the Maui Strong Fund. And I think they are giving 50 million to rebuild the houses. Does that add up? Just asking. All right, I'm going to rest my voice, friends. Thank you for being on board. I have to finish out by showing you a lovely, healthy American from California out of these dozens and dozens and dozens of lovely cards and letters that I got, especially over Christmas and New Year's. He sent me a whole stash of Band-Aids. Now, I was going to put one on. I don't really want to waste them. In fact, I was going to put one on every finger. And I thought maybe I should wait and do that when I do more coverage on Joshi Slosh Green Do Deal. And I just thought this was so funny, hilarious. And I just want to say that Ken knows my humor. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for sending this. I appreciate all my healthy Americans, your cards, your letters, your comments. Most of all, the fact that you like to read between the lies and that you're willing to do the work and you're willing to sit through a video at this length. It always cracks me up when people are like, I don't have time to sit through your videos. It's like, oh, well, I had time to research it and make it and produce it and follow up, but you don't have time to watch it. You just want me to give you the shortcut. That's not a good process for critical thinking. And I know you know that. So stick with me. Tomorrow, I've got more coverage on this. Thank you, everybody, for being on board. Big shout out to the moderators. And I look forward to seeing you in